Folks, I have never been great at sitting down and doing a bunch of research to find the right tag in the right state for the right species. That's why I rely on Eastman's Tag Hub. I don't know if you guys have checked it out yet, but Eastman's Tag Hub takes a trusted hunting research you rely on and have for years to a powerful new digital platform. You could jump in there and find the right hunting units in 11 different states and try to find the perfect tag to fit your budget and your goals. It's a great way to cut out all that external research that just gives you a headache, and if you're anything like me, you just don't have the patience for it. Let them do the work for you, and the cool part about Eastman's Tag Hub is it's a monthly payment option. You don't have to pay some big fee to get into it. It starts at like $7 a month. And it gives you access to everything, to include access to the world-famous Eastman's Hunting Journal magazines. It's a great deal, guys. Check it out at taghub.eastmans.com. All right, guys, this week we're going to talk a little predator hunting. Hope you're dialed in and ready, because it's coming. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Time Studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. And damn, that intro music is loud sometimes. And so, guys, we're going to switch gears a little bit. I don't know that I've ever done an episode fully committed to predator hunting. I know we talk a lot of bear hunting. We touch a little bit on wolf hunting and touch a little bit on coyote hunting and whatnot. But I think you guys are going to dig this episode. I've got a fellow podcaster on, Geoff from Predator Pros, who's also, not only is he a fellow podcaster, but he is a fellow podcaster for Eastman's hunting journals, and he is a fellow Marine. And so this ought to be good. If you've got kids in the car, I recommend they put the earmuffs on or something, because you get two Marines on the show, shit's going to get real. So, Geoff, welcome to the show, brother. I appreciate you joining me.
Rob, Jim. Good to be on, buddy.
Let's see. I'm going to move my phone over a little bit because you were cutting out. Man, we were having issues on Zoom. Now we're having issues on the phone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. Now that's a lot better. Okay. I think
there we go.
We just come out of this like crazy snowstorm up here. Out of the blue, and ever since the storm hit, all my phone service and internet's kind of shitty right now, so sorry about that.
No worries. I just gave you a big oorah, that's all.
Oh.
That you missed out on,
Damn it. What'd you do in the Marines, man?
I was an 03, specifically an 0341, which mortars.
Yeah,
not by choice, not by choice, unfortunately. You know how that goes when you go to School of Infantry. They kind of put you where you're at. But I had a side MOS of security forces, so luckily I got to go do a little bit of that. I got to go to designated marksman school and spent some time in Bahrain. Guarding a Navy installation there, and
oh really?
But then came back out into the fleet. Was out in Camp Lejeune for the rest of my time. But got to spend some time in Okinawa and. Out there in 29 Palms, got to do some mountain warfare training up in Bridgeport, California.
Oh,
so,
man, yeah.
I got a chance to travel around and see quite a bit of stuff. So it was good.
Dude, that's crazy. It's
how about you?
Yes, super similar, man. I've been to Bridgeport and 29 Palms, and I was stationed out at Camp Lejeune with 2-2. But I wasn't in security forces like you were talking. But I have been to Bahrain. In fact, I got tanked in Bahrain right before we went into Iraq. And we flagged, so they let the Marines off, in the port there in Bahrain, and we flagged down this car we thought was a cab. And it wasn't. It was some dude that just lived in Bahrain. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'll give you a ride. I just got off work. I'll give you a ride to wherever you want to go. And we're like, are you a terrorist? And he's like, I am terrorist of pussy. And so we're like, oh, okay. Well, apparently this guy's just one of our peeps. He just drove us around all over, and we went to like these hookah bars and stuff.
Yeah.
And he made custom rugs, these like Arabic rugs, and I bought a couple of them from him, and he shipped them to my parents' house, and they got them while I was in Iraq. So anyway, that's my story with Bahrain.
Yeah, shit. Yeah, that's wild, man. I spent a whole year over there, so I got to know that place a little too well. I mean, it's like the if nobody's familiar with Bahrain, it's like the party capital of Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, back at least when I was there, that would have been in 1999. You couldn't drink or anything over in Saudi Arabia, so they drove that. I think it was like a 30-mile bridge.
Yep, we drove that bridge. Yep.
Bahrain just sits out in the Persian Gulf there, so yeah, all the Saudis would come over there on the weekends and stuff and party and do that. But I mean, British Airline stewardess school there. I mean, it was a crazy little spot.
It is. It's like this little teeny dot on the map, and they have a shitload of money in that country. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what year were you there?
The year.
What year would that have been?
When I was in Bahrain, it would have been like January of 2003. I went in the Marines in 99 and got out at the end of 2003. In fact, I was supposed to get out the same week that the Iraq War started. So we were already overseas, and I ended up in Iraq instead of getting out. So what years were you in?
Yeah. I was in from 98 to 2002. So I got out. I was with 1-6 weapons. But they were like way down on the rotation. So I don't think they even went over to Iraq until 05, 06. So it was pretty much all guys that I didn't even know when they finally headed over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Well, that's interesting, man. I don't know that I've ever had anybody on the show that was actually in the Marines at the same time I was. So. Yeah,
that's why it's a small world, man. I actually, through my commercial side of what I do, I actually met a marketing manager for Sig Sauer at one point down the road. It's probably been 10, 15 years ago. And we got to talking, and he was actually in the same damn company, 1-6.
Oh,
but
really?
He was there like a year after I had left, kind of a deal. So yeah, it's crazy the people you run into. It's kind of a small world when you look at it sometimes.
Yeah, for sure, man. I don't miss Camp Lejeune. Do you get a shitload of those emails? They're like, oh, did you drink the water on Camp Lejeune?
Drink the water? I'm like, man, I don't even remember. I know I didn't drink much water. You know how that goes.
Yeah,
but
there was not a lot of water drinking.
No. But I'm like, yeah, I think my wife said something about that, and I'm like, oh God, I don't even know. I'm pretty healthy right now, so I think I made it out all right.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think it actually it ended in like 85. If you were stationed there before 85, then that's when it was a problem. After that, it was fine. So. Anyway,
yeah.
So you do the Predator Pros podcast, man. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, start with where are you from, Geoff? Where are you at right now?
I'm out of a town called Scottsbluff, Nebraska. It's clear on the western side of Nebraska. We're about 20, 25 miles from Wyoming, and maybe 70 miles from Colorado.
Gotcha.
I mean, we're like we're 5-6 hours from Lincoln and Omaha, so it's like pretty much we're in our own different state kind of a deal, but,
yeah.
I was born and raised here. I left for the Marine Corps for 4 years, came back, used that GI money, went to college, have a degree in marketing. But yeah, just, tons of hunting and fishing in this country and, where I grew up and yeah, that's kind of how I got my start.
Well, you're obviously super passionate about predator hunting, specifically, I think coyotes. Where does that come from?
Well, it's kind of a weird thing. I think it dates back. I've always loved to shoot. I grew up hunting. My dad took me hunting, but not coyotes. I think I shot my first coyote when I was 14. We were out deer hunting, and on my first deer hunt, and my dad had this old lever action 308, and I think like a fixed Weaver 6-power scope on the damn thing, you know.
Sweet.
And you know, we're bouncing down the 2-track, and this damn coyote was standing on the driver's side, and my dad's like, "Jump out and shoot it," you know. So I bailed out and threw the rifle across the hood, and the coyote stood out there about 100 yards and shot it. And so that was the first coyote I ever killed. But still, at that point, I wasn't real crazy about it. Really wasn't until I turned 16. I was out at some public hunting areas here south of town and stumbled across a lanyard of hand calls in the parking lot. Our public hunting is very limited out here in Nebraska, but when you do find a public piece, there's usually like this central parking lot, and you got to walk in the whole place. And usually what it is some rancher or something that turned over his ranch to make it public, you know. And so, yeah, there was this lanyard of hand calls laying in the gravel, and I picked them up and thought, "Oh, what the hell is this?" And started to mess with them a little bit. And thought, "Oh, wow, these are these, you know, rabbit calls and things like that." So I dabbled in it through high school. Actually, probably did more than probably dabble. But, you know, then I went, you know, then you leave to the Marine Corps. You know how that is. So you don't have a whole lot of time to do stuff. And
yeah.
And really, when I got back out of the Marine Corps and started going to college, well, shit, I had all the time on my hands in the world, you know, to hunt and do that. And at that time, you know, that was the early 2000s, and I would hunt a lot of different things: waterfowl, big game, coyotes, about anything I could hunt, you know, turkeys, you name it. But there was really, I think at that point I had a chance to do it quite a bit. You know, I was able to hunt, well, I don't know, let's say 60 days a winter, you know, because, you know, wasn't married, just going to school, you know, all the time in the world. And, yeah, and I think maybe about 2004 or something, I just something inside me said, man, something about this coyote hunting is just, you know, I think I really like the challenge of it. What probably enticed me the most was the fact that, you know, I could shoot coyotes and I could keep shooting as many coyotes as I wanted. I didn't have to stop, you know.
Yeah.
When I always went big game hunting, I never hardly would ever shoot anything, because I was like, oh, God damn it, if I shoot this now, I'm done. I'm done with my hunt, you know?
Yeah.
So I would just hunt and I wouldn't shoot anything, you know? And I always liked and I was never much for patience, you know, as far as sitting there and glassing and sitting in a tree stand and all that kind of crap, you know? And so the fact that, hey, I can just hunt my ass off as hard as I want and kill as many coyotes as I want. And, you know, it's lots of shooting. It's fast paced shooting. I've always loved to shoot. I've always been a pretty good shot. So that, and on top of just the fast pace of what coyote hunting is, and just calling predators, you know, moving lots of stands and, you know, throughout the day and things like that. So yeah, then, you know, after a couple of years of that, I just kind of said, you know what, I want to get really good at coyote hunting. And so instead of hunting coyotes, you know, 40-50% of the days that I had to hunt, I started hunting coyotes 90-95% of the days I had to hunt.
No kidding.
Yeah. So like, have really been doing that since probably 2005. So maybe the last 17, 18 years, you know, which just like anything, the more you practice it, the more coyotes you're getting in front of you, the more coyotes you're shooting and calling. And, you know, I've traveled a lot over the last 10 years in a bunch of different states to hunt coyotes. So you learn how to hunt coyotes in different terrain and, you know, using the same concepts and things like that. So yeah, it's just and it's still to this day, it doesn't get old to me. It's just one of those things. No matter how many thousands of coyotes I've watched come running into the call, everyone's still just as exciting to me. And I don't know, it's crazy.
God, it is exciting, man. I lost somewhere along the line. I lost. So you probably don't know this. And actually my audience probably doesn't know this, but there was a time where I was absolutely obsessed with coyote hunting, and I did a ton of it, and I killed a lot of coyotes. In fact, when I was in high school, it's funny, we have a lot of similarities, man. When I was in high school, growing up, there was certain counties in the state of Utah, because I grew up in Utah, and there was certain counties that would reimburse you for coyotes, dead coyotes. And all you really had to do was bring in the tail. But I would just load all the coyotes up in the back of my truck and take it down to the county building, and they'd pay me like $50 a coyote. And so I got obsessed with doing that and helping these farmers get rid of these coyotes down in central Utah. I've shot them from my truck. I've shot them by calling them in. I've shot them off a horseback. I've shot, you know, all sorts of stuff. But I was like you are. It did get, I don't know where the change happened, man. I got way into bow hunting elk and all these other things, and I haven't done as much. I shot a couple of coyotes last year just because they were on my property, and I think they were after my chickens. But I want to get back into it and be more like what you're doing, because you actually nailed it when you talked about how, like with coyotes, there's generally no limit. You could hunt them basically year round. It keeps you. The great thing with coyote hunting that I love is it gets you out of the house in the winter and gets you in the field when there's nothing else going on, right? I mean, you can go ice fishing or you can go coyote hunting.
Yep.
And I'll tell you right now, I'd much rather coyote hunt than go ice fishing. So that's fantastic. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and I just, and I tell people this all the time. I'm like, if you hunt enough coyotes, everything else will be boring to you. I mean, it's just the way it is. I have 3 boys, and the oldest one's going to be 16 here in January. The other one's, 14, and then I got an 8-year-old. So they've been coyote hunting with me since they were, since I was giving them piggyback rides, and they've been on, I mean, you name it. They've been on 18 coyote days. They've been on 2, anything between, and they've hunted all over with me. And they're to the point now where it's almost like coyote hunting is not cool to them. They want to go experience other stuff, because I've never really taken them. I mean, I took them out when they turned 10 and 12 so they could shoot their first deer. I've taken them turkey hunting a little bit, but I take them all over the place hunting coyotes all winter, so they don't get a chance to do some of this other stuff that I got to do a long time ago, that I'm kind of over. Well, they're kind of almost opposite now. They've got to do so much coyote hunting that now they're kind of, they want to go do other stuff. They want to go hunt deer and hunt turkeys and hunt ducks and geese and stuff, so it's kind of funny to see how they're transition. But what I told them, I said, boys, you're going to find that, if you've been paying attention hunting coyotes, everything else is going to be easy. I mean, the way that you have to hunt coyotes, I said, shooting a big dumb elk or a big dumb deer, standing out there, honestly, from the shooting aspect of it, rifle wise, sure. Obviously archery and that kind of stuff adds that added challenge and closeness you have to get and things like that. But I said, from a rifle standpoint of hunting with a rifle, I said, nothing will ever compare to just what you guys have seen with this coyote stuff. So it'll be cool to see what they end up doing. Who knows? They all love the outdoors and things like that, but who knows where they'll end up,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's actually, and I think I said this on the last episode, it's one of my favorite things about hunting nowadays is taking my kids. And I have 2 daughters. That's, I don't have boys. But they're both way into hunting, and they're like way into outdoing me, and I'm happy with that. They're
Hell yeah.
13 and 11, but I'm still sick about what is today? Wednesday, so that would have been Sunday or Monday night. Anyway, I take one of my daughters out to go whitetail hunting, right? And I'm using these new Phelps calls. They've got this Phelps bleat call and the beta grunt tube or whatever. And I've never been great at calling in whitetail. I usually just kind of find them by other means. But anyway,
yeah.
I got this whitetail all fired up, and I'm calling. I'm using a grunt tube, and he's in the trees like raking. And you could hear him stomping his foot. And I'm telling my daughter, her name's Shiloh. I'm like, Shiloh, get ready. Like he's like 100 yards, and he's going to come busting out of those trees at any second. Well, he did, but he came up to the left a little bit, and he's over there stomping his foot and kind of rocking his head back and forth and blowing and all this stuff. And I'm like, he's right there. And so Shiloh, she pulls up the rifle, and right as she gets the scope on him, that sucker bolts. And the whole point to the story is, I love calling animals in. I love calling animals in. I'm sick about that whitetail getting away. I am, man. That was a big buck. He was probably, and we're in North Idaho, man. So like a 150-ish is a great buck.
Oh yeah,
like that's a great buck.
Yeah.
And he was in that range. He was a big old buck. But anyway, I've been sick about that. But again, sometimes I go on these big rants that it's a long way of telling you I love calling in animals, and actually there is nothing like the thrill of blowing on a call and having a coyote come just a cruising. I mean, they will flat run you over, and I love the adrenaline, the adrenaline that comes out of that. Is that kind of what it is for you? Do you call them all in? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. I've always, early on I used hand calls, like probably for the first couple of years, but I've always been kind of a technology kind of guy, like, trying to see the advantage when it comes to long range shooting. I was doing long range shooting right when I got out of the Marine Corps, back in the day before it was kind of popular. Now it seems like everybody's into long range shooting and long range setups.
Yeah.
I was back in the day, we had these little Palm Pilots, and, we'd have to enter the ballistic data into that thing. And I had this damn bar, and, even back then in like the mid 2000s, the binocular rangefinders, or even just a normal laser rangefinder, you couldn't hardly pick up an antelope past 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Out on a flight, they weren't great, so we had this old Bar and Stroud artillery rangefinder that we bought off of eBay. And it was, so I've been into that. I've shot exclusively nothing but AR-15s for coyotes since 2004. So I've just always been into that side of it.
Huh.
Yeah. So, that was when the ban, the Clinton AR ban was lifted, back in 2004. And just with the Marine Corps background, shooting M16s and that kind of stuff, I was like, what, I really think this is the way to go for coyotes, because, I can rattle off rounds when these coyotes are out there running off.
Yeah, when they're running,
multiple coyotes. So I'm like, I've been into that. I love using the technology and scopes nowadays. I run the Sig Sauer stuff, so I don't know if anybody's familiar with that BDX stuff, where it's all Bluetoothed into your rangefinder and ballistic, the calculator in your phone, and it's just crazy stuff. But the other side of technology has been the e-call side of things. When it comes to calling coyotes, I couldn't tell you the last time I used a hand call to call coyotes.
What do you mean, like an e-call? Are you talking about like a Fox Pro or something?
Electronic call, I run all Lucky Duck stuff, which is kind of their competitor, kind of top tier, electronic call company. They sell a lot of waterfowl stuff too, but, they kind of came onto the predator scene here maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I've started developing a line of electronic calls and things like that. And, so we're using these crazy electronic calls that have remotes. A friend of mine, Rick Paulette down in Kansas, he's actually the co-host of the Last Stand YouTube show that we filmed together. But he records all the sounds that are on these calls. So it's unreal. Like, you take somebody that's really good with a hand call, there's only just a few sounds they can make. It might be a rabbit distress.
Yeah.
They might be able to sound like a fawn in distress, maybe, and they can maybe do a ki, maybe like a wounded coyote pup or something, and maybe do a few howls. But really, you're limited. But man, you take an electronic call with these real animal sounds on it, and there'll be 20 different coyote fights and 20 different pup distresses. There's coyote breeding sounds, all kinds of coyote vocals. Multiple coyotes, coyote serenades, pair howl, you name it, along with all your normal rabbits and birds and all the other stuff. So I just tell people I'm pretty good at pushing buttons. When it's a little more technical than that, obviously, but that's kind of the joke. I'm pretty good at pushing buttons. But yeah, just the advantages of being able to get that call out away from you. When you're blowing a hand call, the coyotes are coming to the sound, so they're looking at you. Yeah. And they're pretty damn smart. They're pretty keen. They got great eyes.
No, they will dial. They will dial in. They're just like an elk, man. They will dial you in. That's been my issue with hand calls. I'm really good at calling them in with a hand call, but that's been my struggle. Is a lot of times I'm hunting solo, and that coyote's on me. He's got eyes on me before I've got eyes on him because I'm calling. So I just pulled up this. I've never actually heard of Lucky Duck calls.
So that's the huge part about an electronic call is being able to. These remotes work for hundreds of yards, but you don't ever put that call out that far usually. But I may have that call anywhere from 40, 50, 60, even maybe out to 80 yards.
Yeah.
And then then I can funnel those coyotes into where I have shooting lanes. And then all the focus, as long as I'm not moving a whole lot, the coyote's focus is on the sound coming out of that call. These calls have built-in decoys as well, and stuff. So really a lot of
they do. This one's pretty nice.
A lot of cool features to get the coyote to say, hey, let's keep your focus on the call and not me getting ready to snipe you from the sidelines over here,
Damn, man. What's the difference between the $750 one versus the $160 one?
The technology in it, the speaker and the amp. So these calls are the high-end ones are crazy loud. You get out there and you're fighting a big wind or something like that, and you want lots of volume that's going to cut that wind. Out there in the big sage flats or somewhere where you're thinking these coyotes are going to come from a long way. So, the quality of that speaker is really good, where when you amp that sound way up, the sound doesn't distort. It still sounds as good on max volume as it does on low volume. The remote capabilities, the design of the remote gets a little bit better when you go to that upper end call, just with the features of the remote, the bigger screen.
Which one do you use? Do you use that like super high end one, that Super Revolt?
Yeah, that's the one. The Super Revolt's a new one we just kind of developed and came out with, towards the end of last year. Really, this summer was really when it came out. But it's kind of a combination of all the there's like 5 different calls from, like you said, from 150 up to like 750.
Yeah.
There's a series of 5 calls priced in different price points. It pretty much has every feature possible that you could want on an electronic call.
You said we developed. Are you involved with them or?
Yeah, so yeah, kind of. I've been part of. Like I said, they're kind of the owner. So to back up a little bit, we've been filming this YouTube show called The Last Stand. We're actually filming our 5th season of it.
Oh, I've seen that. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Lucky Duck's kind of the owner of the show, and they came to me. It's kind of a long story how I kind of got involved, but I used to write articles for a Predator Extreme magazine. Mm-hmm. And, kind of like the reason why I love these podcasts and why I kind of got into the podcast with Eastman's was because Ike wanted me to write articles, and I said, nah, I'm not, it feels like I'm back in school, having to write these goddamn articles all the time. But I'm like, I really like to talk on the phone and stuff. I said, how about we do a podcast instead? So, so here we are, but back at that time when I was still writing some articles, Lucky Duck had came to Predator Extreme, said, hey, we want to do this writer's hunt. And I don't know, I'm sure you know what writer's hunts are. I don't know if anybody listening does, but essentially a company has maybe launching a new product or something like that. And they'll put together some sort of event, whether it's a hunt or whatever. And they'll send messages to all these magazine companies and stuff like that to send writers. And the company pays for all these writers and stuff to come on this hunt. In exchange, those writers go back and write articles in those magazines about their hunt and about that new product.
Yeah.
Well, so I was the closest writer to this hunt was going to take place out in eastern Kansas. Well, the editor of Predator Extreme called me and said, hey, you're the closest guy I got. Do you want to go out there? And I'm like, well, yeah, that sounds like fun. I've never been hunting coyotes in Kansas. And I knew Rick Plett, who had already partnered with Lucky Duck to get the sound library for him, and Lucky Duck had already had technology.
Is Rick Plett, is that what you said?
Yeah, he's the Verminator, man.
Yeah,
you probably heard him back in the day. He used to hunt with Randy Anderson and all the old videos back in the day.
He did the DVDs back in the day, right? Yep. Okay, yeah, I've watched
DVDs
all his
back
shit.
in the day.
Oh,
he's got like one that's bow mania, like he shoots nothing but bows on shooting coyotes and bobcats and raccoons with bows and
yeah.
So yeah, he was already in with Lucky Duck, and they were kind of talking, saying, hey, we want to develop a new e-call. Well, Lucky Duck has been in the waterfowl industry for a long time. They do the spinning wing duck decoys,
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of had the technology background there to do it, but they just didn't have the sound library. So them and Rick got together. Well, at the time of this writer's hunt, they had kind of had a prototype e-call ready to go. So I got to go out there on a hunt with Rick and Tim Noe, who's the owner of Lucky Duck. And, basically through the course of 3 days driving around hunting coyotes with these guys, they really didn't know what I did at the time. And we just got to talking and I really liked the direction they were heading. I loved the Rick sound library. Was nothing like I'd ever heard before. And I was like, I want to be part of this, so
nice.
We kind of developed a partnership at that time. And like I said, so that's maybe actually been probably 7 years ago now that I think about it. But, so they're like, we want to start doing a show. Obviously that's a great promotion tool when you have a new line of products coming out. So, and they're like, Rick's been in the DVD industry. I actually had a line of 3 DVDs a little bit later than Rick. That's kind of how I got started commercially in the coyote side of things, that were sold at Cabela's and Walmart and stuff like that. But So we both had a background in filming and being in front of the camera and that kind of stuff. So, it's made it's a great yin and yang kind of combo with him and I. I mean, some kind of say he's more kind of a redneck type of guy, just has crazy ideas and does some crazy stuff. But it's super fun hunting with him. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started with Lucky Duck. So now, we're kind of their main two predator hunting guys. And, when they're putting new calls on the market, Rick does a lot of the R&D. But then also they'll come to me and say, okay, hey, you run an e-call different than even what Rick does. Here, you need to check this over. You need to go put it through the ringer and see what we need to do different. Because if this works for you and Rick, obviously you guys are pretty hardcore coyote hunters. It should work for everybody else that uses it. So it's been a pretty cool, partnership and just, kind of, I've never been part of anything like that, of how the developmental process goes and putting something to market like that and working with a company. So it's been cool.
Yeah, man, that's pretty intense. So I'm sold, man. I was literally just going to buy a Fox Pro, and I didn't know this Lucky Duck existed. But I as you've been talking, I'm kind of perusing the website here, and if I feel like the options are a little bit better. Do you have like a promo code or anything?
They don't. It's crazy. They haven't been able to keep these things on the shelf for the last 5 years. I mean, it's just the market. They'll sell X amount. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. They'll sell 5,000 calls this summer, this season, and the next winter they'll say, okay, let's double that, and then they'll sell out of that, and the next year they'll say, well, we better. Yeah, it's been unreal the amount of success that they've had with this thing, But yeah, lots of great companies out there. Fox Pro is what I used before I got in with Lucky Duck, and it was great. Like to say, I'm not going to sit here and bash other companies. I think there's lots of great products out there, whether you're talking e-calls, scopes, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just something that I've been part of, and yeah, it's been great.
Let me ask you this, man. I am not a Predator Pros podcast host. It's my main thing is not coyote hunting, but I do love coyote hunting. So is this the Riot e-collar? Because I don't want to go with the cheapest one, but this is like the next step up. Is that a pretty good one for a dude that just wants to kind of dabble in it?
Yeah, it probably depends on what type of country you're going to hunt the most of. If
super thick coniferous forest, straight up and down steep shit, North Idaho. It looks like a jungle.
Yeah. So, volume probably for you is not a crazy big thing. The coyotes that you're calling in are all probably all coming from, 600-800 yards,
Yeah.
Obviously sound just doesn't carry great through a forest. Especially if you got a lot of terrain mixed in there, so that's really the next step. If you're looking at the Riot call versus the Revolt, that's really the main difference is the speaker size. I mean, that Revolt or the Riot call is about the size of a tennis shoe, roughly.
Oh, gotcha.
Where the Riot or the Revolt call is now like 3 times that size because the speaker, the amp, everything's that much bigger. So it just has a lot more power, a lot more volume if you need it.
Okay.
Another feature that you get from upgrading from the Riot to the Revolt would be the ability to spin the call, which is a patent that Lucky Duck has on that e-call. And that's really cool because, if you study how sound comes out of those speakers, those are horn speakers. It's kind of like the shape of a diamond, essentially. The sound goes left and right out the speaker, but really where that speaker's pointed, that's where the sound travels the farthest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when you set up on a coyote stand, if you don't have the ability to do that, you got to walk out there and figure out, okay, where do I want to point this call? And, it's a guess sometimes, right? Where do I think the coyotes are going to be? And you might guess right. You might not guess right at all. So the ability to spin that call now is huge because now I can cast that sound across the entire, let's say there's 180 degrees of landscape out in front of me where I'm hoping there's a coyote coming from. Well, now I can spin that call right. I can spin it left. I can spin it back to the middle, and I can cast that sound all over the place. And not only that, I think it adds to the illusion of movement a little bit. If a coyote's off to the right and you have the speaker pointed right at where the coyote's at, and then all of a sudden you spin the call back to the left, obviously that sound's going to, go down in volume just because the speaker's not pointed at him. And then you spin it back all of a sudden, now it changes, the volume level and things like that. So it may add to some realism, I guess. Some guys seem to think, but so that's really the main upgrade you're going to get from going from the Riot, which is $250, $260. I don't even know what the price is on that.
The Riot's $350. It's $350.
Oh, the Riot's $350. Okay, and the Revolt's what? $475?
I don't know. Let me go back to that other page.
Something like that.
Yeah, it starts at $159, and then the Riot is $349, and then $449 for the Revolt.
Yeah, for $100, if it was me, I would go for the Revolt all day long. It's going to come with 100 sounds. It's going to come with 50 more sounds, which is just going to give you that many more of those coyote pup distresses, those coyote fights, those breeding sounds, all those coyote-based sounds. That's really what you want on a call is, you don't need 50 different rabbit distresses. You know what I'm saying? You want a big variety.
I got a dumb question for you with these.
Yeah.
With coyotes, I get that. That'd be fantastic. I'd love to do that. But has anybody ever used these to call in a bear?
Rick actually has. So if you know Rick, he's obsessed with calling in a big brown bear, right? Mm-hmm. He's been up to Alaska three different times trying to call bears. So he actually has some pretty good bear recordings that he has on that call.
There's got to be some sounds we can get to put on that to call in a black bear. I want to try that, man. I have tried using hand calls to call in black bears up here, and I can never do it. I never call them in, or maybe I am and I'm missing them, or you never know.
So you can. So they don't. The bear sounds don't come standard. But what the cool part about it, Rick has his own website, which is I think verminatorpc.com. So you can buy, he's got a massive sound library. So like I said, if you buy that call, if you buy it from him, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you buy it from Cabela's or Shields or wherever, you can get onto his website and buy just sounds. Like if say you want to come on there and buy, he has, let's say he has 5 or 6 bear sounds. And the crazy thing about his bear sounds are kind of a funny story is the town where he lives, they have a zoo, and they have some black bears at that zoo. And the zoo let him go in there and record a couple bear cubs like fighting over donuts.
Oh, no kidding.
It's legit bear sounds. It's legit bear sounds and like bears fighting and squealing and some other sounds like that, other than just trying to call them in with a hand rabbit call or something like that.
Well, I just need like a fawn in distress or an elk calf in distress kind of thing. So. Or just it doesn't even need to be in distress, honestly. But I don't know.
Yeah. And that comes standard. Like a fawn distress will come standard on pretty much all those calls. But yeah, if you really wanted to get crazy and add some real bear sounds, you could even give that a shot,
Yeah, I'd be all over it. I would try that kind of stuff. I'm that dumb. I will be the first guinea pig to try that kind of stuff. So I don't care.
That big sucker comes up and smashes the call. You just kill him before he gets to the call, right?
Yeah. I'm super interested in this, man, because, and I didn't mean to turn this whole discussion into like an ad for Lucky Duck or whatever.
No.
But I'm interested in it because I feel like it could work on wolves. I feel like it could work on black bears. And obviously it's going to work on coyotes, possibly mountain lion. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that, here where I live, I could take that. Have you ever hunted wolves, man?
I've actually been up to Idaho a couple different times. It just wasn't, I was actually probably up in your neck of the woods. The last time we were up there, which has been probably 10 years now, but yeah, I've been up there a couple times. It's kind of, as a predator hunter, that's kind of the pinnacle, that's like what I want is a wolf,
Well, come on and see me, man. I know where they're at. If you can call them in, I know where they're at.
Yeah. See, that's the problem I ran into is, it's a day drive from where I'm at to get to Idaho, especially northern Idaho. Mm-hmm. And, by the time we all I ever had was maybe 5 or 6 days total, so by the time I killed 2 of those days with travel, it really only left me 3 or 4 days to hunt. Well, in that country, if you show up into that country and you've never been to it before, it takes you 2 days just to learn all the logging roads and everything, so you're killing half your time just learning. Yeah. So by the time I ever got to the point, I was just like, man, you know what? There's no possible way to pull this off, in the amount of time I had. But like you said, if you're already with somebody that knows the country, and kind of knows, maybe the drainage or the range that these wolves potentially could be hanging out with, that's half the battle when it comes to wolves is just finding them, because the terrain and the country they're in is just a needle in a haystack,
Well, and they move a lot, man. They're always there. It's not like they're hanging out in the same spot for a week. They're just constantly moving. Yep. But they do return. Yep. But yeah, man, I do know where they're at. and I can usually get them talking with a wolf howler. In fact, I just again with Phelps Game Calls, they're one of the sponsors on the show too.
Yeah.
With Phelps, they just actually came out with a wolf howler call, and it is a mouth call. It's going to be like, it looks kind of like a bugle tube for elk.
Oh, really?
And it hasn't shown up yet. I think they just shipped it. But anyway, I just bought that, and that thing's going to get a workout, man. Like, it is going to get a workout. I'm going after wolves. 2023 is that's one of my big goals for 2023 is to find a wolf. They're tough, dude. Yeah, you've killed a lot more coyotes than me. I've killed a lot of coyotes, but you've obviously you're really good at this. And but with my experience with predator hunting and coyotes, wolves are way harder. Like, they are way harder. There is only one call company here at the Western Huntsman, and that is Phelps Game Calls. Born out of hunting and the necessity to make the best calls on the market, Jason Phelps started this company in his garage back in 2009, and now he's got some of the finest lineup of elk calls, turkey calls, predator calls, waterfowl calls available on the market. If you guys go to the website, check it out and get what you need. And if you're in the market, when you go to checkout, use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. Whether you're just getting started or have expert level calling skills, check it out at Phelps Game Calls. Get them close. Hoffman Boots is a fourth-generation owned boot company, a family of shoemakers based in North Idaho. I've been sporting a pair of Hoffmans for close to a decade, and I really like the Hoffman Explorer in the 8-inch. It's the best boot out there, so check it out at hoffmanboots.com, and you'll see the whole lineup of hunting boots and lineman boots and pack boots and everything else right there on the website. And if you choose to purchase a pair of boots, make sure you use the promo code all caps lock Huntsman10 for 10% off. SKRE Gear, extreme high-performance hunting attire and gear that is scientifically tested, complete layering systems, and some of the finest merino wool products to keep you warm and comfortable, and it's all backed by a great company. What I really like about SKRE is if you go to the website, they have these bundle options like the elk bundle or the whitetail bundle or the turkey bundle, all that stuff that'll get you completely outfitted for your favorite hunt. The starter bundle is a really good deal. Make sure you check that out. They've got the VIP sizing guarantee, and so you can exchange something if it doesn't fit right at absolutely no charge to you. Guys, it's a great warranty, great company, and at checkout, as always, use promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. The Elk Collective. Folks, the best investment you can make when it comes to hunting is what's between your ears. Having elk knowledge is what separates those who succeed every once in a while versus those who notch a tag every single year. So go to the Elk Collective and sign up. There's over 150 videos in this online course to teach you everything you need to know by some of the best experts to ever enter the elk woods. It's a great program at a great price, guys. And if you use the promo code, The Western Huntsman, you're going to get $20 off of your entire course. So instead of $89, you'll get it for $69. And now that September is over and we're into October and November and all these fall hunts, if you get it now, you're going to have an entire year to go through all this course. And believe me, you're going to need it. There's so much content in there. So check it out and use the promo code, The Western Huntsman, all one word. Last but not least is Tacticam. Guys, you know I've been using Tacticam for a very long time. I really like my Tacticam 5.0s. I like my Tacticam in the wide lens, so you can get that kind of wider angle and shot. They've upgraded now. They've got the Tacticam 6.0, which is super cool. I can't wait to get mine. And also the cell cams. Don't forget about the Tacticam Reveal cell cams. They've got a bunch of different series of these things, and I've got them all over my property, so I know what's going on at all times. Whether I got a bear that's coming after my chickens, or if I have an intruder down at the driveway, or if I have a giant monster whitetail buck over in my hunting spot, I know what is going on at all times. I love my Tacticam Reveals, guys. Check it out at tacticam.com. Let's get back to the show. Here we go.
And I think a lot of it comes. Yeah, I think it comes down to this. You know, I bet you if you talk to somebody about what, you know, calling in a bobcat versus calling in a coyote, they'd probably say, "Oh yeah, it's way easier to call in a coyote."
Ooh, I don't know, man. I don't know. bobcats are super responsive. At least they are here.
Yeah, you know, it's weird. You know, I think everybody looks at it a little bit different. You know, like I said, I've never shot a wolf. The few times I've went, you know, we never even got on wolves. You know, we never heard any howl. It wasn't like I, you know, heard some howling up the drainage and we tried to slip in and nothing we did worked. You know, I didn't even have that opportunity, you know? So,
yeah.
I think the crazy thing about wolves is that, I think they're just like a coyote. You know, I think the first crack, you know, coyotes get smart really, really fast, just like probably anything does.
Sure.
I don't think cats do, you know, and so I don't necessarily know if a wolf is any smarter than a coyote, because I think they both learn really fast. Like if you mess up and you fuck up and you don't get them killed the first time, I think they both get smarter really fast.
Totally.
You know, to me though, I've always looked at kind of like the biology of it. You know, a coyote is just naturally skittish. Like it's in their DNA, the way that they have, you know, been groomed over the last 10,000 years. You know, they've always been a prey species of the wolf. You know, the wolf will kill coyotes whenever they see them. So the coyotes always, that's why a coyote is the way they are, you know, where, you know, wolves, we were able to eradicate wolves pretty much, you know, from the lower 48.
Yeah.
So that alone, if you, to me, that's always been my argument. The government spent freaking billions of dollars trying to eradicate coyotes, and there's more coyotes now than there ever has been. We eradicated wolves fairly easily.
I think coyotes are a lot more adaptable, and their prey base is a lot more diverse than what a wolf is, you know. And so, I don't have, you know, I'm no biologist. I don't know if there's one that's smarter than the other or whatever. I think they're both extremely difficult to hunt, and to be really good and consistent at hunting them is next level hunting. It's not like getting a white-tailed deer every year. It's a totally different ball game, and so I don't want you to take me wrong. I wasn't like trying to compare one or the other. No, I'm just trying to convince you to come to North Idaho and hang with me for a few days, and let's go try to kill some wolves, man. I think it'd be fun.
I would love to, man.
To have your perspective and all that, but yeah. Because I want to talk about that, man, because here's the thing that happens with a lot of the discussion when we're talking about predator hunting. You know, you get a lot of people out there, they're like, oh, you know, I killed a coyote, saved some fawns today, or blah, 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 which I think, you know, there's merit to what that is, but it's also like, you don't need to justify it. Like, just go out and hunt coyotes because it's a good time and it's legal and there's a million of them and they're so adaptable. They live in like fucking downtown LA. Like, you don't need to justify your coyote hunt by saying you're saving fawns because go ahead.
Oh no, I'm 100% with you, man. I mean, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is it just seems like, I call it the meat eater mentality nowadays, you know, where it just seems like you're a bad person or you're a bad hunter if you're not using every possible piece of that animal you killed for whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, true.
And I don't have a problem with telling people I'm out there killing coyotes because it makes me happy.
Yeah, I don't either, man.
I just love killing coyotes.
No shame.
You know,
yeah.
Yeah. If the fur market's great. I'm going to get a little bonus out of it, you know? But like this year, the fur market's going to be trash. The coyotes aren't going to be worth hardly anything. So guess what? You know, lots of coyotes are going to end up in canyons and ditches and dumpsters and stuff like that. But, you know, it is what it is. I mean, if you think I'm a terrible person for just going out and killing stuff to kill it, that's me, man. You know, I don't know what to tell you.
Nothing in nature goes to waste. It's not like it's just this thing that just is going to sit there and nothing is going to consume it. I don't know. I don't understand that whole argument, and I've gotten. I don't know if the right term is less sensitive or more sensitive to it. In a sense that it irritates me sometimes when people feel like they have to justify whether they're hunting, you know, a coyote, a wolf, a bear, any kind of predator, mountain lion. You know, there's always, you know how, like when people post a picture of their deer on, you know, social media, it's always like, oh, he's no monster, but, oh, this isn't my biggest one, but, always
Just
trying
be happy
to
with
justify what it is. It's like, no, shut the fuck up. Like, it came in front of you. It was a good opportunity. He's a great buck. Shut up and be happy about it. Like, you're not posting this to stop posting things to try to impress other people, because people aren't impressed, right? When you get on Instagram, like 90% of my feed right now is people with whitetails, right? So I'm not impressed. I'm not that impressed. Just be happy with what you got. You don't need to justify it by saying, well, this wasn't my biggest, or he's no monster, but I took him because I need meat, kind of thing. Like, I'll just be frank with you, man. I have standards on this whole whitetail hunting thing. I'm mostly a mule deer guy, but I screwed the pooch on mule deer season this year. So, like, I'm at a point, man. I was being a little picky, but tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I'm shooting the first damn whitetail that has a branch antler. Yeah, I'm not messing around at this point. I don't care. And when I post a picture of it, I'm not going to say stupid shit like, "Oh, well, he's not my biggest." No kidding, he's not my biggest. But anyway, the point is, getting back to this, the predator thing, there's that same mentality where people have this thing where they feel like they have to justify, hey, I was out hunting and a coyote ran in front of me, as if, like they're downgrading the magnitude of what it means to, what's the difference between a coyote and killing a deer? Like, they're both wildlife, right? Yeah. Like, they're
at the core of everything. What are we doing? We're killing. I don't care if you're eating killing or not. You're still a killer.
Like quit.
And I don't know if people just can't look themselves in the mirror and be like, oh God, I gotta just. I don't know what it is. To me, I'm like, I'm a killer, man. I love killing stuff.
Yeah, I don't care, man. We're Marines, man. So it's easy.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. To me, it's just part of me. I mean, you're just sick, Well, hey, man, I just like killing stuff, man.
Do you think that's what it is? Is maybe they're posting and they know that there's non-hunters that follow them or Facebook friends or whatever, so they feel like they have to justify it to them in a sense that, hey, look, I killed this coyote because I want to show it off that I got something. But hey, by the way, I also saved some fawns by doing this.
Yeah, I think there's some guys that do that. I think some guys do it out of just that they think that's what they should do. Because let's face it, the predator game is at the tip of the spear when it comes to the anti-hunters. That's what tugs on the heartstrings of everybody when they, a non-hunter, not necessarily an anti-hunter, but a non-hunter sees a picture of a dead deer, and you show them a picture of a dead deer and a picture of a dead wolf or a dead coyote. Every non-hunter is going to be like, "Oh my God, why'd they kill that beautiful coyote or that beautiful wolf?" They won't say shit about the deer.
No, we've talked about that. So the
anti-hunter, the anti-hunters use that against us, and and that's why we could spend the rest of the time just talking about anti-hunting movement against coyotes specifically, with them shutting down coyote contests and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I just think,
Geoff, what do you think that is? Because that's the essence of my show is talking about the anti-hunting movement and how we're going to combat it going forward. What is it about predator hunting? And I'll give you a couple of examples because I want to circle back to exactly what you said. But like on Instagram, there is a group called Wolves of the Rockies, and I believe they're based out of Jackson. And I follow them just because I don't know, I like high blood pressure or something, so I follow them. But and like right now they're going through this thing because the Wyoming or Montana, I'm not sure which, wolf season just opened. So every day they're giving you this count. Oh, today 47 wolves died so far this year, and then like a couple days go by. Oh, 51 wolves have died, and they're not even they're lying about what the population of wolves is in the Yellowstone ecoregion or ecosystem. Anyway, but they're like, oh, this is I can't remember what percentage they put it at, but it was way, way high, because of, what was it? Montana has like 740 some odd wolves. Wyoming has a lot less. I think it's less than 300. But the point being, most of those wolves are right there in the Yellowstone ecosystem, and so they come out, and those are the wolves that they're tracking, and they're full of shit. and they're propagating to people that don't know any better. And then you have this same kind of mentality, these same type of groups that are out there targeting like coyote competitions. Do you want to talk about that for a minute, like coyote competitions and what's going on with that?
Yeah. So what the problem I have is that us as hunters, there's been a significant amount of division, and it's really come down to the coyote contest. Now, make no mistake, these anti-hunting groups, they're anti-hunting everything. Don't make a mistake that they're going to be, if they get coyote hunting shut down and wolf hunting shut down and lion hunting shut down, don't think they're coming after your elk and your bighorn sheep and everything.
They will not be satisfied. I agree. Totally.
You're completely naive. And I really think that a lot of hunters have not educated themselves enough to understand that. So what you got was, I think, and make no mistake, this anti-hunting push is they're educated and they're freaking well-funded, more well-funded than what we are. Mm-hmm. And the problem is we have a few hunting groups, you name it, SCI, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and that's who we're supposed to have back us up. But the problem that we've had so far is none of those hunting groups have backed up coyote contests, because they have said, oh, that ain't our fight. We're elk, or we're SCI, or we don't care about that. Well, it's opened the floodgates now. So it left us hunters out there, coyote hunters especially, like, well, what now? We have these anti-hunting, whether it's Project Coyote or you freaking name it, World Wildlife Foundation, coming after us, millions and millions of dollars to put this litigation out there and influence politicians, and influence just the average person that really probably doesn't care one way or another whether we're shooting coyotes or not. No. But they're going to put images in front of that person to persuade them. Well, us as hunters, we don't. The average hunter doesn't care. He's like, oh, I'm just going to kind of mind my own business. But they're out there actively pushing and actively influencing the crowd that's going to make the majority of the vote, per se.
Yep.
And that's been the most disappointing thing to me about this whole thing is, I love hunting coyote. I'm a 2-time world champion coyote hunter. I'm a national champion coyote hunter. I've spent a majority of the last 15 years hunting coyote contests. I just love it. I love the competitive nature in me. And I love just challenging myself. So it's been a big part of what I do. And I used to hunt contests in Arizona. Those are banned. You can't hunt contests in Arizona anymore. I used to hunt contests in Colorado. They're banned. You can't hunt contests in Colorado.
They're banned in Colorado?
Yep. New Mexico's banned now. The latest push is Nevada and Oregon. I mean, those are two kind of states that, you got a big hub of Portland and, out in Oregon, that can swing a vote. You got a big hub of Las Vegas and Reno that can swing a vote. So, that's where the big push is now, trying to shut that down. So it's crazy. Unfortunate. I really wish, back when this stuff was more in the forefront, I would see comments like, well, I'm a hunter, but I think this is just ridiculous. Why do you need to go out there and kill as many coyotes as you can in a day? Well, you're not a hunter. In my book, you're not a hunter. Don't call yourself a hunter. Yeah. Or I hunt some coyotes, but this is just, well, you know what? It's no different than the argument of the traditional bow hunters bitching because they legalize crossbows,
Yeah.
Who cares? We're getting, the only way we win this fight is to increase hunter numbers. It's the only way. Mm-hmm. And if we're divided amongst ourselves and fighting amongst ourselves, and we got one group of hunters over here that's throwing another group of hunters under the bus, as the sacrificial lamb, and it's not going to work out for anybody. I can tell you that. And it may take 100 years or 50 years or whatever, but it's not going to turn out great, So that's the biggest thing with me is I get disappointed in the fact that hunters in general, whether you like me shooting coyotes or not, or whether you're a coyote hunter or not, we're all in this together. They're the enemy. The anti-hunters are the enemy. Trust me, they're coming after your shit next. So,
no, man, Geoff, like you nailed it, man. You absolutely nailed it. And this is exactly what we talk about and why we talk about it all the time on this show is we can sit and bitch at each other over method of take, bow versus rifle. We could sit and rip each other apart over whether or not somebody's a predator hunter or a coyote hunter or a bear hunter that uses bait versus a bear hunter that uses hounds. We could rip each other apart all day long, but the problem is we have a bigger, well-funded enemy that doesn't give a fuck what you're using.
No,
they don't care if you're a squirrel hunter in Kentucky or a hound hunter in Idaho or a coyote hunter in Nebraska or a whitetail hunter in Texas. They don't give a shit. The end game is the same for them, and they don't separate the difference between all of these different methods of take and different species and all these things that make up the portfolio of the North American model of wildlife conservation that has been so successful and is the envy of the world. That's what they want. They want to be the number one, so-called conservationists, and they do that through propagated messages that, it's easy to take a dead coyote that's been hunted, with it looks like a bloodbath. There's a big bullet hole in the side of it.
Oh, yeah.
Poor little dog that looks like your neighbor dog, Fido, laying there, and some hunter with a big shit-eating grin on his face. Take that picture and throw it out on Twitter and say, this poor coyote was hunted. What they don't tell you is coyotes breed at probably one of the most highly prolific rates of reproduction rates on the face of the planet. Like, they're like fucking mosquitoes, man. And you cannot ignore the coyote population and pretend like a coyote competition in central Idaho is going to affect all coyotes, worldwide, and they're going to be extinct because of this coyote competition. It's ludicrous. It's the same psychotic, woke, liberal bullshit that comes out of these big urban areas that we all have to suffer and pay the price for. And I'm sick of it, man. I'm sick of paying the price for all this groupthink BS that comes out of these crazy places like you mentioned Portland. Why are we having to suffer for these people that are so naive as to the wildlife management systems that have worked for so long? Like in Washington, I'll give you. I'm getting off track here, but Washington, they just formally got rid of their spring bear season. They're and it's insanity. I mean, the scientifically, I'm talking. This is insanity. Getting rid of the spring bear in Washington. And I sent my emails and I made my phone calls, and I know a lot of people that listen to this show did the same thing. And it's like their commission didn't give a shit. You know why? Because they've been propagated and they don't have the scientific data to give them some kind of tangible, actual, realistic reaction versus these high emotions that run rampant on social media and get crazy cat ladies to donate thousands of dollars every few years to these organizations that want to ban this shit. Dude, I'm going to lose my hair over this. I'm already starting to go bald. I can feel, if I took my hat off right now, there'd be a bunch of hair falling out.
Well, I always try to look at solutions, Jim, and I try to put it in ways that the average hunter understands. And this is how I kind of explained it to people. I said, you know what's the hunting population in the United States? Is it maybe 10%?
No,
10% of Americans hunt? Is it even that?
Barely 5% of actual tag holders. So I only know this because I'm working on something very specific to this. So the actual tag holding populace of the United States for hunters is roughly 5%. In fact, it's just under that. That does not include. Like in my situation, my wife and I, my wife does not hunt, but she is very pro hunting. In fact, if I don't get a deer in the next week or so, I'm going to be in big trouble because I'm not putting meat in the freezer. So, so that doesn't include her, or people like that are.
So let's just say roughly 10% are pro hunting.
Yeah.
Okay. 5% are tag holders. Their spouse, everybody they know. So roughly 10% of the country is pro hunting. Okay.
Well, Jeff, I did just see a statistic that said it was like roughly 80% of Americans approve of hunting, but that doesn't mean they're pro hunting. So let's, with that caveat.
So the way I kind of lay this out is, let's just say 10% of the population is pro hunting, mean they take part in hunting, their husband takes part in hunting, their son whatever, Well, then I say, okay. Let's just say that 10% of the population are the hardcore anti-hunters. Okay, these are the people that hate us, and they're taking part in Project Coyote. They're donating all this money to World Wildlife Foundation, whatever, you name it. All right. So those are the ones. Well, is 10% of the population ever really going to change anything? Probably not, right?
Nope.
What's going to change is that 80% in the middle, right? So that's what they're trying to do is they need to get as many of that 80% to vote them. Well, how do we combat that? We're never going to change that 10%. Their mind's made up just like our minds. They're never going to change our mind. We're going to hunt,
exactly.
Right? But we got to figure out how do we get the 80% to work with us. And really, I think the only way to do that, we're never going to convince them with pictures and propaganda. Well, how we convince them is we get them into the outdoors. We get those people into hunting, and the more and more, if we do that, I think, obviously it starts with kids, you and I talked about that already, getting our kids involved, where it's taking new kids. I think to me, that's where it's at. If there is not a huge push in the outdoor industry or the hunting industry, fishing industry of recruiting new people to our sport, their propaganda and their money is better than ours. And before we know it, a majority of that 80% is going to be on their side. And that's where the vote and all this comes down to votes and pressure that commissioners and things get. And, so yeah, I mean, that's really what you can do as a hunter. If you're worried about it, we can sit here and bitch about it all we want. But unless you're actively doing something about it, like trying to recruit new people, take new people hunting, introduce people to hunting, whatever it is, I don't care if it's shooting prairie dogs, taking them fishing, turkey hunting, shooting coyotes, deer, you name it,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I think it's just, you're not doing your part if you're not trying to recruit new hunters. Bottom line. No,
you nailed it, man. You're exactly right, and especially from the sense of we live in this society where people have this, and again, I think this kind of comes out of social media, where we have this tribalistic mindset where we feel like we have to attach ourselves to a cause, and people that don't have a cause. What kind of cause are they going to attach themselves to fill themselves with their own sense of self-importance? Where does that come from? Well, hey, the Humane Society of the United States just said that coyote competitions are really bad for coyotes. And look at all these people that support that. Okay, I don't have a tribe right now, but I have a big credit card, and I want to be I want to feel like I'm part of a cause, and I want to feel like I'm involved with a tribe. Let me call Humane Society of the United States with my credit card number and help donate to that. And then I'm going to post on social media about how many coyotes I think I just saved. And that's kind of the trap we fall in. And the thing is they use this emotional stuff, this emotional propaganda. Like, what we say the word propaganda all the time, but what is propaganda? They're taking imagery and information that might not be accurate, and from our standpoint, we know that it's not accurate, and they're putting it in front of people and kind of portraying it as this factual thing, and that people that don't know any better, because it's so emotionally driven, attach themselves to it to be feeling like they're a part of a tribe, and then they start donating to it. And when you've got this kind of emotional attachment, it is very difficult to change their mind, even if it is science and data driven. We can come back with all this tangible information or this scientific driven data that shows, hey, coyotes are eating cats in downtown San Diego, California. And to include, the little dogs, and they are living in basically sewers and drainage tunnels, and coming out at night in these urban areas and snatching everything they can, and their population is like, how far have they spread now, man? The coyotes are all the way on the East Coast, right? Because it's not natural. Oh
yeah, every state except Hawaii. I mean, they're clear down into Central America. They might even be in South America by now, I think. So they're everywhere.
And like when you and I were kids, you remember, we're about the same age, but growing up, who was the villain coyote? Wile E. Coyote, right?
Yeah.
Wile E. Coyote, and where did he live? In the Southwest, chasing Roadrunner. Yep. So when you think about the range of coyotes now compared to 20, 30, 40 years ago, there's a huge disparity as to where they were and where they are now. And so that data does not translate to people's emotions. And that's the problem, and that's the struggle we get into, and that's why we can't afford to have hunters bitching at each other and ripping each other apart over whether or not they want to partake in a coyote hunting competition. Like, it's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things.
Well, yeah, you talk about propaganda. You take a coyote hunt with 50 teams, okay, 52-man teams, and at the end of the tournament, they check in 150 coyotes, okay. So there's this, and they usually lay them out, or maybe there's a pile of 100. So somebody comes by and takes a picture of 150 dead coyotes laying in a pile, right? Now, the wrong people get that in their hands. They could spin that any way they want, right? But they'll never know the reality that, okay, these 50 teams, they only averaged 3 coyotes a team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And those 50 teams may have covered 1,000 square miles of country, to kill 150 coyotes. But yeah, that's a prime example of how propaganda gets spun. But ultimately, I don't think I think some guys are afraid to post stuff. I love posting pile pics of coyotes. To me, that's like my trophy pic of, that's my 380-inch bull, or my 190-inch mule deer. When I got a pile of 30 coyotes that we killed in 3 days, Yeah. That's just what I like to do. And I'm not afraid to post that. I mean, could it get stolen and spun? Probably so, but I've always felt like we shouldn't run from that. I mean, that's who we are. That's what we're doing. To back up a little bit, I mentioned the meat eater mentality, kind of have like everybody thinks they got to justify, what they're hunting and that they're hunting and why they're killing things. And I want to say I'm not totally against it, because I talked about that 80% in the middle and recruiting new hunters. And I think that meat eater mentality has done a good job of recruiting new hunters. I really do. I think there are some people that have maybe been on the fence about hunting, and they thought, well, if I can go out and actually, eat what I shoot, maybe I'll enjoy doing it more. Would you agree? Maybe that has probably done a great job of recruiting new hunters. I really do.
That brand has done a good job of bringing people that wouldn't even think about hunting, but because of the health and the, usefulness and the natural way of, garnering food, whatever. I get what you're saying, dude.
Yeah. So I think that's just back to the fact is that we can't be divided amongst ourselves, whether I can't be upset that they're trying to justify why they're hunting. I can't have them being upset at me because we're just out killing for the fun of it, and in how that goes about, I don't know. I think that's probably the toughest sell is to those probably new hunters that we're recruiting. How do we show them that what we're doing is no different than what they're doing? We just have different reasons for doing it,
Yeah, that's tough, man.
It is a tricky one, but we need, ultimately at the end of the day, I think you need everybody. You need them all. We need, that the meat eater mentality kind of to spread and recruit new hunters, the predator side of things. For me anyway, I see a lot of the younger generation migrating towards coyote hunting. For example, just because they like the fact that it's using technology, you're using these e-calls, you're using this cool AR-15 that they play on their damn video games, Call of Duty and shit,
Yeah.
And I can, we got suppressors on these damn things, and I can, I can go out and shoot coyotes with this stuff, and it kind of appeals to them. So, use it. I'm not afraid to say, man, this is cool. If you think that's cool, and I run into a lot of people that have started hunting. The first thing they ever went hunting was coyotes, just for similar reasons. And, I think it's important for us to find out what that is, find those people and introduce them the right way.
Well, let me give new hunters that might be listening to this a little word of some words of wisdom here when it comes to if you are looking for some kind of justification to go coyote hunting. Let me tell you something. If you get behind a rifle, and Geoff here, he talks about how he's going after him with an AR-15, which is a brilliant idea, by the way. I've done that too. But if you get behind a rifle and you use a call, take the same rifle that you're hunting deer with. Okay, so if you're for example, I have this 300 Win Mag. Take that. And if you get a coyote coming in and you get that coyote stopped, or if he's slowed down or whatever, hell, if he's on a dead run, let me tell you something. If you hit that coyote with that deer rifle, you're damn sure going to hit a deer or an elk. And that's real. That's 1,000%. Literally why. This is why I think I was so excited about coyote hunting back in the day, is, there was that long range factor where I'm not way into that part of it, but it is fun when you can do that. I would go out and hunt jackrabbits and coyotes in the high deserts of central Utah just to hone in my shooting skills. And let me tell you, it went a long way because, again, if you can hit a coyote, especially a running coyote with your deer rifle and whatever scope you're using, I promise you're going to hit a deer. That's just how it works, and it'll make you a better hunter.
Well, and on another thing too, I mean, you can do things with coyotes. I mean, especially if you're hunting coyotes out here in the West, that where the fur is good. Even though this year, like, a fur market's not great, so you're not going to be able to find a fur buyer to give you any money for it. Probably if you do, it's going to be $5 maybe, just because the market's down.
It is low.
But you could. It doesn't mean you still can't take that coyote to your local taxidermist. Or even if you have a fur buyer, a lot of these fur buyers have connections to tanneries, and they'll skin your coyote for you. They'll send it off to a tannery. You can still have it, hanging up in your trophy room, whatever. There's still things you can do with that coyote.
Yeah, and they're really cool.
If you're the type of person that says, I just will not shoot something if I can't do anything with it, and who knows, with Facebook and all these groups and stuff there on social media, hell, you may be able to find somebody in your area that says, yeah, man, if you shoot some coyotes, let me know. I'm not going to pay anything for them, but I'll take them and I'll skin them and put them up myself, and that person can use them. So it's not like you're stuck throwing them in a ditch,
Yeah, it's
there
not
are
always
options
like that
out there to find to get rid of coyotes if you do happen to kill a coyote or two when you go out.
Yeah, and coyotes are it's a great way to learn how to tan your own hides. That's how I learned to tan hides was by shooting coyotes. And dude, I don't know that I'd do it right now because I haven't done one in so long. It'd probably look like shit, but and stink. But that's where I learned how to tan hides. Is I was getting coyotes. I'd skin them out and tan the hides myself, and I did it the old mountain man way, man, with the
you're
brains.
Hardcore, Jim. Goddamn.
I'm not that hardcore. I sound hardcore, but no, that's how I did it. That's how I learned how to do it. And I think people would, if you're looking to live a life, especially these new hunters, or like what you were saying was the meat eater crowd. If you're looking to live a life that is, closer to the land and tighter with nature and all that kind of thing, killing a coyote and learning how to skin its or tan its hide, and putting it on the back of the couch or something if your wife won't kill you. It's a cool thing. I mean, it really is. It's a cool thing.
Cool,
like, it is a reminder. It really is. Was Rick the dude that did the whole coyote coat? Is he the one that would wear that on the back of those DVDs, or who? I might be mixing them up.
I don't know. That might have been Randy Anderson.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
It was that Randy. I remember
guy.
seeing on that.
I bought all of them. I bought all the DVDs, and that's how you know. That's how you know, Jeff. We're getting long in the tooth, man. We buy DVDs on how to hunt coyotes.
Yeah, we were talking about the damn e-calls. The first e-call I had ran off goddamn cassette tapes.
No way.
Nowadays,
really?
Nowadays you just push all those sounds are stored as like MP3 files inside that thing. You just push a button. Yeah. My very first e-call I ever had, I had a big duck hunting blind bag, to throw all your duck hunting shit in there, Well, this e-call, it was made by Western Rivers, and it had this big box, probably about 10 inches cubed. And it had the cassette deck, and it had a built-in rechargeable battery in it. And then it had a big speaker that had about a 50-foot cord on it. Well, I stuffed all that shit down in the center part of the bag, but then all the outside pockets were stuffed with different cassettes, and every cassette was a different sound. So in the middle of a coyote stand, if I wanted to switch sounds, I had to eject the tape, pull it out, take the new cassette tape out, slap it in there, or sometimes you'd hit the end of the cassette tape and you'd have to eject it and flip it over, So yeah, that, all these young bucks, pushing buttons. I'm like, yeah, and there's guys I talk to, even old timers that, use record players.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
Yeah. To do, call coyotes and stuff. So, it's pretty wild when you start thinking about that, but,
analog,
a lot has changed.
Analog, bitches. We did it back in the day.
That's right.
That's crazy. Well, hey, man, I've kept you a long time tonight. This was cool, dude. I'd love to get you back on the show and talk about this. I'd actually really like to do an episode with you where we really dive in deep to some of the strategic, processes of calling coyotes and what you do, how you teach it. We always talk about getting new hunters involved, but if they don't have that kind of information, where are they going to get it? Well, I guess they can go back to Rick's DVDs and some of your videos and stuff. But it'd be great to talk about that. It'd be a great refresher course for me. And talk about.
No, this has been cool.
Yeah,
this has been cool because normally that's all I'm talking about is strategy and tactics and tips and that kind of stuff. So this is kind of a cool different pace for me, just because it's something I am very passionate about.
Me too,
just
man.
being just hammered. Personally, I can't tell you the thousands of emails I've gotten over the last 15 years and comments on stuff from anti-hunters just because of what I do in the coyote world. But so it's been a great conversation, but for sure, that's kind of what I really pride myself on is the ability to teach coyote hunting, and that's my ultimate goal. I want everybody to go out there. I have such a great time doing it, and I love hunting coyotes so much that I'm like, and it's just the most awesome thing to me. And I'm like, if everybody got to experience what I experienced in the coyote world, they would all be hooked, So I want people to go out there and have success, not go out there. You know how it is. You drive around, you don't see shit, and you're making stands. You're like, oh, these guys are full of shit. It's nothing secret to me. I don't do anything that's secret. So I love to teach and, tell people, at least how I do it, and at least give them a good idea to make them successful doing it.
I think, and I feel like you've got that teacher mentality for something like that. And so what I think would be ideal, man, is let's do another episode like this winter when coyote fur is at its thickest, and talk about it, and keep in touch. But I'd also really like to someday have you come out to North Idaho, man, and let's go chase some wolves, because I think with your predator experience and my knowledge of where they're at, I think we could figure it out. Like together, because I've never killed a wolf either, man. You were asking about.
Yeah.
I just know where they're at, and I can always get them howling and whatever. But they're wily little suckers up here, man. So
yeah, I was just talking to Ike Eastman the other day, and he's got a neighbor up there in around Cody, Wyoming, where he lives, and he was asking me the same kind of questions. This neighbor of his is like, that's all he does all winter is try to figure out wolves, and he's killed a few, But we'd actually talked about maybe going up there and filming something for the Eastman's Hunting Journal TV show,
Yeah.
But I was like exactly what I told Ike. I said, Ike, I feel like, I've never killed a wolf before, but I feel there's a lot of parallels between what I do in the coyotes versus what we do with the wolves. It's obviously different terrain and things like that, but it all is very similar, at least in my mind. So, but if you have a guy that understands the terrain, knows how to get to where we need to get to, I feel like, maybe I'm naive, but I'd like to test myself though, to see but I feel like that would be the perfect combination of getting some wolves killed, would be somebody that has just an intricate, knowledge of the area. And then you got another guy that just has an intricate knowledge of killing predators, and setting up and calling and doing all that kind of stuff. I think that's that's a deadly combination,
Oh, I would totally agree. I think the dynamic difference, or the dynamics of hunting wolves, when you're talking about comparing it to like coyote versus wolf hunting, is there's a lot of similarities, but the wolves have the advantage of running in a very well, tightly oiled pack, and they have like this, the wolf that's in charge, this alpha wolf that is all knowing, all telling, and if he or she makes the right kind of sound, all the wolves will, it's like they get abducted by aliens and they're gone off the face of the planet. The younger wolves are dumb as fuck, but they're still, wily like a coyote. And so it's that's the problem that you run into, and people that go try to wolf hunt that don't know anything about wolves and their behavior, they actually end up, like you were saying earlier, they'll end up educating those wolves a lot more and do us more a disservice than a service. But that's I think the difference is, and not that coyotes don't periodically run in packs and stuff, but they're I don't know, I've never seen them.
Coyotes are solid. Yeah. coyotes are solitary creatures by nature. That's the big thing. You're right.
And that's the difference. And they use that the wolves use that to their advantage. Like, again, I was actually elk hunting, and I'm using a cow call, and I'm just mewing and making that sound. And these wolves that were right below me, probably not more than 80 yards or so, but it's in some pretty thick country up here. They start kind of making these sounds towards each other, and it's not like what you think, man. It's like it's hair-raising noise. I don't know how to even explain it. They're like, woo, woo, kind of weird. And it's like they're making a plan almost together to come in and find this cow that's calling. And then it's the older wolf further down the hill identified the fact that I was a hunter making elk sounds, right? It's like he knew, he or she, I don't know what it was. And he made this other sound, and I mean, they shut up and disappeared. They just, that's the difference. They just know how to communicate with each other, and it's very effective. So anyway, I'd love to get you up and let's do it, man.
I wouldn't discriminate. If we called in one of the young dumb ones, I'd shoot it.
Oh, totally, man. No, totally. And then you can get reimbursed, man. You just join F4WM out here. Before you come, and they'll, up to $1,500. And so here's what we should do, man. I got an idea. Are you ready for this?
Let's hear it.
So Ike, if you're listening, you need to fund this trip for Geoff to come to North Idaho. We're going to kill a wolf, and we're going to turn in our receipts to F4WM, and they're going to reimburse you to have Geoff come over, up to $1,500.
Heck yeah!
And then we keep the hype,
win-win for everybody.
Win-win for everybody. Yeah. I think Ike's on board, man.
Oh hell, I'd have to get that damn thing mounted.
Oh,
to really piss my wife off.
Totally. My buddy got one of those soft mount wolf mounts. And it is the craziest damn mount you've ever seen. This thing is just—it looks like it's alive sitting there, and you could put it in any position you want. It's super cool.
That's awesome.
Anyway, well, let's wrap this up, brother. This was a really fun conversation. I feel like we actually gained some traction and made some progress here. So hopefully, people
you bet, man.
People get a lot out of it, and we're gonna have to do it again, like I said.
Yeah. And if anybody wants more like hardcore predator hunting stuff, invite you to come over and check out the Eastman's Predator Pros podcast. That's all we talk about over there. You name it, calling coyotes, bobcats. I've had Guy Eastman on talking about hunting lions and,
nice.
Bears. We just had a wolf one here about a guy up in Canada that, kills 50 to 80 wolves a year with trap lines and bait piles and things like that. So
he's up in Canada?
Man. Yeah, in Canada, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of wolves, dude.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
Yeah. So come on over and check it out. Like I said, we just started our second season, so I don't have I think we're on episode about 27 or something right now. So not plenty to get you started, listening to. So
for sure. If you guys knocked out those episodes, you'd be coyote killing machines by this winter. Is there like a Predator Pros Instagram? Where else can we find you?
Yeah, biggest thing, I just have my normal Instagram page, which is Geoff Nemnich, and that's Geoff with a G off is what it looks like. So yeah, you Google or you search GEOFF in the search thing on Instagram. I'll probably be one of the first ones that'll come up. But yeah, and then there's an Eastman's Predator Pros Instagram page. My website is probably the best place to go, which is coyotecraze.com. That has links to all the YouTube shows that we talked about. I have a personal YouTube channel, as well as, Lucky Duck has a YouTube channel where all those Last Stand episodes are posted to. And that gives you, coyote schools that I put on. You name it, links to the podcast, all that kind of stuff on the website. So
sweet. Well, I'm going to link all that in the show notes, guys. And yeah, like he said, Geoff Nemnich on Instagram, I pulled right up. And then there's the coyotecraze.com and your YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So that's fantastic, man. I'll make sure that all that's going to be in the show notes, so you guys check it out. Let me know if you have any questions, Jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. And I'd love to hear you guys' feedback on this episode, especially when we start talking, we gets a little spicy sometimes on this show. I dig it, Geoff. I appreciate you coming on the show, man, and hang on the line for just a minute.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you